Dan, just before break, you talked about I don't want to say it's the unintended consequences, but it's the piling on of taxes as it relates to food. Let's look at this clip where they talk about this in the House of Commons about farmers having to pay at least $150,000 for an average farm. Let's get your thoughts on the clip after we see the clip.
By 2030, the average farmer will have to pay $150,000 in carbon tax. How much of that carbon tax will the average farmer, like her father, get back from this government? I'm going to try another question. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business has said that the carbon tax will cost small businesses X amount of dollars in 2023. Does the Finance Minister know how much it's going to cost small business?
The Honourable Minister.
I want to talk about a farmer called Henry Voss. He used to farm around Fairview. He's retired now. He lives on Shaftesbury Trail. And during the wildfires in Alberta, he emailed me to say, please thank the farmers who are taking time out from seeding to plow fire breaks around their neighbors' houses. Canadian farmers know the cost of climate change, and they know we have to do something about it.
Honourable Member.
And you know what the thanks they got, Madam Chair, for taking their tractors to do that? They had to pay a carbon tax on the fuel to cut those fire lines, and they wouldn't have got a single penny back from this government. But the answer to my first question is $8 billion. Small business in this country is going to pay $8 billion in carbon taxes in 2023. And how much money are they going to get back? Zero.
So, Dan, farmers are going to pay at least $150,000 on average for carbon tax. If we look at every stage of that carbon tax is applied to, right? So we've got it at the farm, we got a transportation to be processed, we got it at the processor, we have the transportation to the wholesaler, and then on and on. Talk to us a bit about, is that the $150,000 almost seems like that number's not reasonable.
That number is reasonable, but it's cascaded now through the economy, and at every point it's added onto it. So the processor uses natural gas, the farmer who has to use propane or natural gas to dry their grain, to the shipment costs, to the rail costs. I'm not sure what it takes for people to understand, but when you put an artificial increase in the price at one level, it naturally and inevitably leads to all other levels. If we are looking at inflation in this country, as the Bank of Canada is, and saying it can't go above 2%, well, you have to only look at 14 cents and $1.50 a liter is more than 2%. So the inflation is endemic. It's inculcated in the system. It means that we will continue to have inflation that the Bank of Canada is only willing to meet with even higher interest rates. There is nothing good or consequential about what we're doing. And if the Minister of Finance is so concerned, as her liberal colleagues on climate change, then for all these taxes, we still continue to see a rise in emissions. If in fact that's the concern that they have, I would suggest that maybe they want to go back to the drawing board and start looking at the importance of making sure that clean Canadian energy gets to the rest of the world, including China, which of course the federal government has done its utmost to prevent with the blocking of pipelines.
Well, and I think it's fair to say if we could get China on some of our LNG, that would do a much greater job in helping them reduce emissions.
Well, we blocked that in 2015, 2016, went to the Paris Climate Accord and said, hey, we don't mind. We won't give ourselves credit for sending LNG to the rest of the world. We have to do it to ourselves, even though Canadians here in Ontario know this. We shut down coal plants a long time ago. We've done our due diligence, but we thought it'd be cute and trendy to try to, again, make it even more punishing, to try to make our friends internationally think we're a bunch of chumps, that we could go around and do this one more time. The technology doesn't exist, but the reality is that for most Canadians, inflation is out of control. Everyone knows there's something wrong. Talk to someone coming out of a grocery store, have them look at their grocery bill, have them look at the cost of living. We're falling behind, and don't take my word for it. A fourfold increase in food banks says everything we need to say, especially for the once caring Liberals that I used to belong to.
I got about a minute left in this segment. Daniel Smith win this past week was important. I know that there's some pushback from Alberta and Saskatchewan. Will this make any difference?
I think it's going to make a difference in the sense that Alberta and Saskatchewan are going to stand strong and tall. They're going to push back on this. But I'm from Ontario. I'm not a big fan of the oil industry or that industry which is there, but I do understand the importance, the pivotal, absolute indispensability of that industry in terms of supporting the kind of programs that Canadians come to enjoy, be it our hospitals, be it our pensions, be it our education system. All these things, in one way or another, are affected positively and improved our condition of affordability as well as the ability for governments to make ends meet because that money is there. The federal Liberals want to get rid of it. I'm sorry, but I went down that road in 1981 with the old Liberals when we had 22% interest rates. If that's where we're heading, then the federal Liberals should admit that right now.